because I don't take instruction. I can't remember what a singer wanted. I try, I do my best, but I just start banging shit, and whatever you get, and don't get upset.
Stewart Copeland, drummer of The Police, and purveyor of one of the most distinctive sounds in rock music, has a contagious enthusiasm when it comes to talking about the drummers who have inspired him. He speaks about them with the kind of unbridled energy you'd expect from someone who still approaches music with the zeal of a teenager hearing their favorite band for the first time.
That is an experience worth living for. I mean, those songs, that's...
Yeah.
For Copeland, drumming is a love affair that started young, and the musicians he admires, from jazz virtuosos to rock legends, are nothing short of his guiding lights. The first name that springs to mind for Copeland is Mitch Mitchell, the whirlwind behind the kit for the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Mitchell, with his jazz-inflected approach to drumming, wasn't just an accompaniment to Hendrix's unparalleled guitar theatrics. He was an active participant, embroidering each song with frenetic fills and dynamic grooves that felt like a conversation. Mitch was the most inspiring drummer for me, Copeland enthuses, his voice alight with admiration. He wasn't just playing beats, he was part of the magic. That electric spark he had, it was perfect for Hendrix. Together, they were like this explosion of creativity. Tracks like Fire and Manic Depression are alive with the kind of kinetic energy that could only come from a drummer willing to take risks. To veer away from the predictable and throw himself headlong into the unknown. It's a quality Copeland seems to have absorbed into his own playing, whether it's the high-wire urgency of Message in a Bottle or the syncopated chaos of Can't Stand Losing You. Mitch wasn't just keeping time, Copeland continues, warming to his subject. He was adding colour, texture, excitement. It was like he was riffing with Hendrix, not just following him. That's what I always wanted to do in The Police. Not just keep the beat, but push the music somewhere it might not have gone otherwise. And he's right. Copeland's drumming, full of erratic accents and unexpected flourishes, is a testament to Mitchell's influence. But if Mitchell represents the freewheeling spontaneity that Copeland admires, John Bonham is the embodiment of raw power and control. Bonham, the driving force of Led Zeppelin, has been a totemic figure in rock drumming for decades. And Copeland is no exception to his gravitational pull. When I was younger, I didn't fully appreciate Bonham, he admits with characteristic candor. I mean, I knew he was good, but I didn't really get it.
Drummers tend to be a little humbler and less territorial than other musicians, and we're always happy to give it up for our big heroes. This is the top brass.
Well, it's not in any order, and I wouldn't...
You have John Bonham at the bottom, and I think I understand why.
No, there's no...
I understand why. Okay. Because he's the foundation, he's the building block.
He's around... Yeah, I mean, he's the one that if everyone says who's their favorite rock drummer of all time, for me, no one will ever touch him.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that everyone wants to sound like, and no one really can.
Drums never sounded heavier than under the hands of John Bonham. And that feeling of giant forces at work has been a sacred quest for us drummers. He wasn't fast, but he was huge. We all want to know how he did that. Do you think it was the sticks? Do you think it was the drums? Do you think it was...
I think it was his tuning. I think it was his sense of groove. And, you know, to be able to lay back as far as you can, but still be moving forward.
But still not be dragging.
Not be dragging, still move forward. And that's I think that's one of the hardest tricks of rock drumming, or whatever you want to call it. Bonzo was the master of that, in which every drummer from Roger Taylor to Alex Van Halen, maybe Stewart Copeland, I don't know, to Taylor Hawkins, to Dave Grohl, is the holy grail of rock
heavy drums.
Now though, I'm more inspired by him than ever. The way he played, it was just so purposeful. Copeland pauses, searching for the right words. It wasn't just about hitting hard, though he could do that better than anyone. There was something deeper, something almost spiritual about the way he played. He had this ability to make every beat feel monumental. When you listen to a track like When the Levee Breaks, you're not just hearing a drum part.
When the levee breaks, have no place to stay.
You're hearing a force of nature. It's easy to see why Bonham looms so large in Copeland's imagination. The precision, the power, the ability to balance thunderous intensity with an almost delicate sense of groove, these are all hallmarks of Bonham's style, and they've left their mark on countless drummers, Copeland included. He was the ultimate rock drummer, Copeland says simply. No one's ever come close. From the seismic thrum of Bonham, we pivot to the nimble dexterity of Buddy Rich, a man whose name is synonymous with jazz drumming excellence. Rich, whose career spanned nearly 7 decades, was a virtuoso in every sense of the word, a drummer whose technical skill and showmanship were unmatched. For Copeland, Rich is nothing short of a legend. Buddy was just incredible, he says, his tone a mixture of awe and affection. His technique was insane. The speed, the precision, the control. Watching him play was like watching a magician. He made it look effortless, but you knew it wasn't. You knew he'd put in the hours, the years to get to that level.
At Sidney Allagood, what is the hardest song to drum? I would say Sister Sadie by Buddy Rich. Some challenging stuff on there.
Rich's influence on Copeland might not be as immediately obvious as Mitchell or Bonham, but it's there in the details, in the rapid-fire rolls, the intricate cymbal work, the sense of performance that elevates drumming from mere accompaniment to center stage. Buddy wasn't just a drummer, he was a showman, Copeland says. He had this way of commanding the stage, of making you watch him even when there was a whole band playing around him. That's something I've always tried to bring to my own playing. That sense of being part of the spectacle, part of the drama. While Rich's technical prowess is awe-inspiring, Copeland is just as quick to champion the understated brilliance of Ringo Starr. For many, Starr is an unlikely addition to the list, a drummer whose style is often dismissed as simplistic or uninspired. But Copeland sees things differently.
He actually used his kit in a very different way, a very creative way. Big contribution of Ringo was that he used his tom-toms as part of the composition.
People underestimate Ringo, he says with a hint of indignation. They think because he wasn't flashy, he wasn't great. But they're wrong. Ringo was brilliant in his own way. He played for the song, not for himself. And that's a rare quality. Copeland points to tracks like Come Together and Tomorrow Never Knows as examples of Starr's subtle genius. Those drum parts are perfect, he says. They're not over the top, they're not trying to show off, they're just exactly what the song needs. And that's harder than it looks. Trust me, I've spent years trying to do the same thing. It's a fascinating insight into Copeland's own philosophy of drumming, one that values creativity and collaboration over technical mastery for its own sake. And then there's Ginger Baker, the maverick drummer of Cream, whose fusion of jazz and African rhythms into rock music set him apart from his peers. Baker, with his fiery temperament and equally fiery playing, was a trailblazer in every sense of the word. Copeland, ever the enthusiast, is effusive in his praise.
And he called me young man.
He called you young man?
Yeah. Ginger could call me anything. Hey, you, listen, pal. Fine with me. It would be an honor to be addressed in such a way.
Ginger was a total original, he says. The way he used his tom-toms, it was like nothing anyone else was doing at the time. He wasn't just playing beats, he was creating these rhythmic landscapes. It was like he was painting with drums.
Ginger came over and we sat and we did a little thing. He was on the drums. I was playing the percussion behind over there. I got 1 minute before he gets up and says, oh, like that. 20 minutes later, the paramedics arrive in an ambulance and they're telling him, Mr. Baker, we need to take you down to the hospital. This doesn't look good. Yes, off. Oh, I'm not going to no hospital. I got a gig tonight. you know, and he chased them all away. That's probably the last recording.
Baker's influence on Copeland is perhaps most evident in his use of the kit as a melodic instrument, an approach that prioritizes creativity and innovation over mere timekeeping. Ginger wasn't afraid to experiment, Copeland says. He took risks, and sometimes they didn't work, but when they did, it was pure magic. That's what I've always tried to do, to push the boundaries to see what's possible. It's not just the drummers themselves who've shaped Copeland's musical journey. He speaks with equal reverence about the bands they were part of, particularly Led Zeppelin. Seeing Zeppelin in 1969 was a life-changing moment for me, he recalls. I remember thinking, this is it, this is what I want to do. They had this incredible energy, this sense of being bigger than the sum of their parts. It was like watching a force of nature. That idea, of being part of something larger than yourself, seems to be at the heart of Copeland's admiration for his drumming heroes. Whether it's Mitchell's improvisational brilliance, Bonham's earth-shaking power, Rich's technical wizardry, Starr's unerring instinct for the song, or Baker's boundary-pushing creativity, what unites them all is their ability to elevate the music, to make it more than it would have been without them. And perhaps that's the greatest compliment Copeland could give them, that in their own unique ways, they've all shown him what's possible, what it means to be not just a drummer, but a musician. As he puts it, these guys, they weren't just playing drums, they were making music, and that's what I've always tried to do too. For Copeland, drumming isn't just an art form, it's a conversation, a collaboration, a celebration, and in the hands of his heroes, it's nothing short of transcendent.